Here we are.
I think we're there.
Boating Tips Live, week 16, Keith?
16. Who would have thought?
16, and we've got a special guest here today. Got Anthony Armao from the other coast over there, MarineMax Fishing Team. Thanks for joining us, Anthony.
Thank you.
Today we're going to be talking about anything and everything offshore fishing. So, from tactics and stuff like that, what's good right now, what's not, some pointers here and there, and we're just going to have a good time.
I think Keith wants to start it off with our sailfish story.
Yeah, we'll get into that here in a little bit. We get a few more people logged on here, I think.
All right.
So, we'll do that. I mean, first of all, let's see where you can find all these videos on YouTube. I just found that out, Keith. So you can find it on our YouTube channel, which is, what is our YouTube channel nowadays? YouTube's going to be the same as Instagram, which is MarineMax Online.
Yep. Twitter at MarineMax and Facebook at MarineMax Leisure, which is what you guys are watching this on right now. So what'd you do this weekend, Nick?
I worked and I actually went fishing. I did go inshore fishing in Tampa Bay. I mean, it's so hot right now, man. I mean, that water, I put my hand in the live well, and it's a tough time to inshore fish. I mean, it's like a bathtub in Tampa Bay. I don't know what the last temperature reading you got was, but it's got to be 90 degrees, right?
I think it is. We're right about there up here in the bay. But I've been seeing a lot of quite a few triple tail pictures pop up on the Facebook feeds and Instagram stuff. Their triple tails are showing up out here. So cool. Yeah. So looks like the questions are going to be able to pop up on the screen this week for us, Nick.
Yeah, looks like we're back in action.
How about you, Anthony? Where were you up to, bud?
I was watching you scalloping over there on the West Coast. You guys look like you had a good time.
Man, I'll tell you what. It was absolutely perfect weather, glass calm. We were up at Crystal River, and this is a tip too for anybody just in general. So your power plants, your flagpoles, your smokestacks, anything like that you can see. We came out the river, running out there, run past Crystal River, and this chimney smoke was just going just straight up, not any which way at all. Sheet of glass. Bright blue sky, which is good, so it makes the scallops a lot easier to see down there in the grass. And this is a good tip though if you are scalloping. If you can try to hit it at low tide, you can kind of get in a little bit deeper water. But then since the tide's down a foot or two, it's not that bad. So we literally were in chest deep water and on the low tides. And then what happens is that current's moving. And if the current's flowing strong, that grass all lays over. And those scallops are down on the ground. You can't see them. Then as you start to hit that dead slack period of tide, the grass just stands straight up. And then you're just standing there, and all of a sudden they just start they magically appear, right? They just start popping up, and you go one here, one over here, one over here. And then so you got about a 2-hour window there where it's just really, really slack tide. The grass is up, and then the scallops come out to filter out the water. So it was a great trip. We had 13 boats up there.
Wow.
For this trip. And I think everybody had a good time. We had quite a few boats run up actually from Clearwater all the way up there on their own bottom. And then everybody else, trailered up there. But
see, over here on the East Coast, we don't have any of that, but we got lobstering like crazy over here. It's been like on fire. But how long is scalloping going on over there? Like when's the season?
It depends. It's county to county is different. But generally, like up there, Citrus County and Hernando, I think it opens up like July 1st, like for 4th of July weekend, and runs through somewhere near like the last week in September. But on up in the Panhandle, they've got a different set. So just the best way to find out is go to my FWC's website, and then they'll break it down for you county by county. So like Pasco County, which is just north of us here in Pinellas, right. You can't do any. There's no scalloping whatsoever.
Is there many
Pasco, huh?
Is there even many around here?
I'm sure there are. Yeah. So they don't know where the borderline is, right? So they're smashing them in Pasco County, which is just north of here.
Yeah.
And you got the county line right there. I mean, that it's only a 2-week season. And, everybody's running up there, and they were limited out, no problem. So, yeah, they swim across the border. There's no border wall here between Pinellas and Pasco.
They don't tell them to turn around.
No, just kind of like fish with their tails and their fins, right? They swim around.
Wait for them to jump over.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you guys had a good time. I know that the plantation inn does a great job. They always do a great job up there. I mean, just with that's old Florida up there. It's not like what you're used to seeing in the postcards and stuff with, Miami Beach and stuff like that and Lauderdale. I mean, that's old Florida. And you got the springs there. What's that one? It's a Three Sisters Spring, Keith, where I don't know if there's any manatees there this time of year. I know in the wintertime they're all huddled up.
There's a few around, but yeah, you've got kind of 3 separate sets of springs. So you got King Spring, which is right outside of Crystal River Plantation Resort. Then Three Sisters is actually 3 separate springs in a confined area. So you've got 3 separate holes, and you can actually see the water coming up through the cracks in the bottom. And, monster mullet in there. You see sheephead, you see largemouth bass. I mean, all different kinds of stuff. And then on around past Pete's Pier is Hunter Spring. So, I mean, there's springs all in through that. That's all spring fed. The nice thing about it is, you've been out in the hot, salt water. You come in, you pull up to the spring, you dive in, you rinse off, clean up at 72 degrees. Feels great. You got a little time before your teeth start chattering, and then it's, climb back in the boat and head on back.
One of my favorite things that I remember about going up to Crystal River is, you could be at those springs and stuff, and you could see all in one pan, of the lens. You can see a school of snook swimming right here, largemouth bass and bluegill right here, some blue crabs underneath there, all in the same place.
Yep, it's really cool. Unique spot.
It is. So with that being said, looks like we've got some more people joining on. We got Gabriel joining us from Laos. Hey, Gabe. Good to see. Good to see you're still traveling this week. We missed you. And we're going to talk about offshore fishing. So it's funny, offshore fishing, it's such a generic term. It can mean a bunch of different things. Our version of offshore fishing over here, Keith, on the West Coast is, we've got a long way to go. We've got a long way to go before any deep water. However, that provides us with an excellent bottom fishery for your grouper and stuff like that, where you're not using electric reels, you're hand cranking. We have a ton of real estate. When you think West Coast of Florida, you're thinking wintertime grouper fishery, which we'll get to that in a minute towards the end of the episode. Anthony, on the other coast, how far away is the Gulf Stream from you guys? Just a few miles?
Honestly, if you want to start fishing over here, the reefs are in 30 feet, 40 feet, but they're only about maybe a mile out, if that. And then you could be fishing for dolphin in, 2 miles out because it just drops off so fast. Some people go out pretty far. Some people try to stay inland, whether you're going for dolphin or, sails, wahoo, kings. But like out here, it's like a giant fish tank because it's just, there's so much available because the way the contour of the bottom is, and it drops down a lot deeper. I know, like you were saying, on the West Coast, you guys really got to go out pretty far in order to start getting into some deep water. But here, when you think about it, Bimini's only 50 miles out. Some guys go out here 30 miles and they're dolphin fishing, and they're like, man, I could just keep going straight and I'm in the Bahamas. So you kind of got the best of both worlds. You got the shallows, you got the real deep water, which isn't that far out. So you don't have to spend all day running back and forth just to, get a good place to go fishing. It just makes it a little easier.
It's almost surreal how you guys will have these pictures of these sailfish and your wahoos and your dolphins with the skyline in the background.
Yeah. Oh, you'd be so close. It's not even, we get them sometimes in 65 feet of water. Some of the dolphin, they'll just come right up on the, as close as they can, just on the outside of the reefs over here. Same thing with the sails. Sometimes we're catching kings and wahoo in that close.
There you go. So
you got a picture of Sean right there. He's not far out at all. That's an afternoon bite. They'll leave work here at 5 o'clock. They're on the water and, the inlet's 15 minutes from here. And, they're catching dolphin like that till like 7 o'clock at night.
And it's crazy because anybody can just about do it. I mean, where you're at over there, I mean, it's not uncommon to see guys in single-engine boats catching world-class fish. Over here, to get into fishing like that, you know, you're running almost to the loop current, which is, I mean, it's going to be anywhere.
Pretty far out there. I mean, we got guys that are going out in bay boats, you know, catching fish in the afternoon. And, you know, obviously you pick your days, you pick your weather, but, you know, there's guys in little whalers, little skiffs. They're just running out there catching fish and just coming back, you know. Doesn't have to be a long day, just productive day, that's all.
Yeah, I can attest to the fact that they're in close. I mean, Anthony and I we were doing a little Ray Marine video shoot for a couple of days. So I flew in, and as I'm flying in, the plane does a little loop over the coast, and I'm looking down, and you can just see all these boats lined up right off the reef. You know they're out there sail fishing stuff. So the plane lands, and we do some video shooting that evening. And so it's like I went back to the hotel that night, and I swear to God, I was sitting there, I was dreaming about sailfish, right? And over here, you don't even think about it. You know, it's bycatch. We'll catch them when we're kingfishing. And so the next morning, we're at the Pompano store getting ready to leave. And Anthony, man, you got any rods in there? Should we take some stuff with us? He's like, nah, man, there's nothing going on. So I was like, okay. So we go out there, and Jim McCown and Anthony and we're going along. And Anthony's like, I start seeing these like little flying fish and bait scattering here and there. And then there's some triple tail in the weeds. And all of a sudden he goes, look at that. Look at that. And it looked like garbage bags, these big black bags. And then I'm looking, and you can just tell it's just all these sailfish that are just out there, just kind of cruising around, swimming around the boat. And it was phenomenal. It was great. It was funny.
They came up on the screen, and then they went underneath us, and we were just outside Hillsborough Inlet, probably, I want to say half a mile, if that. And we were facing south. The wind everything was coming out of the north. It was like the perfect day to go fishing. And after they swam under us, you see them on the screen, and then there was a boat probably 500 yards from us. Wound up hooking up on them.
Yep.
And they're looking at me. I'm like, the only thing I have on here is a boat hook. You know, I mean, they were that close. You could have touched it.
They're out there fighting a fish, and we're in the MarineMax Fishing Team, all labeled up, all everything, you know, not a single rod on the boat. So, hey, you just mentioned something, wind direction and current and all that kind of stuff. How's that come into play for that? Like
down here, I mean, well, it all depends. You're either deep dropping, you're you know, trolling. Like for yellowtail out here, like we fish in the Bahamas, which when you think about it, it's really not that far away. And if you don't have current, people don't think, you know, oh, I want it to be totally calm out there, and, you know, I don't want to get sick, or I got the kids, and they want to make it as comfortable as they can. But you could be set, ready to go, have everything that you need. And if there's no current, you know, the fish aren't going to pick up on it. The chum isn't going to float the correct way. And like everything has to kind of play into, you know, everything has to kind of like fall together. Like when they have that mutton run over here in, I think it's June, and right outside of Bimini, where they just start running one direction, and you'll see boats go out there at night, and they'll be lined up, and it'll kind of look like an expressway. It's just you know, anchor lights and nav lights lined up, and they'll just be running through there, and they'll be picking them up one after the next. Just, I mean, monsters, 10, 20, 30 pounds, you know, and they're just, everything just comes into play. Same thing like here when you're going for sailfish. If you can get the correct drift, and say you're kite fishing, so you want your kites where you're kind of side to, and your kites are up, you know, on the side of the, you know, beam to the boat, and your fish are swimming on top, you know, you got live bait. If everything just comes into play, you have a lot better chance of catching fish than when you're just blind trolling.
So now, so Mercury now with the joystick piloting system and the skyhook and all that, we've got that ability now, that feature on these where you can actually lock it in. So instead of skyhook is just holding you in that spot, you can actually drift the way you go and hold the boat that way. So it makes it easier with your kites, right?
Oh, a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier too when you got a seakeeper and it's a little rough out there, and you're just drifting sideways, and it doesn't matter how rough it is. And I mean, it keeps you flat, keeps you calm, it keeps you makes you more alert too, because the boat's not moving, it's not bouncing. It's a lot easier to see your baits because they're swimming right on top of the water. And normally when it's like that, it's not like totally flat, like slick calm out there. So you want to be able to see better. If you can concentrate more, it's going to make it easier for you to, get the right fish when they're coming through.
Man, talking about kite fishing, I mean, that really kind of started over there on the other coast of Florida, over on your coast with the sailfish thing. And talk about the most exciting bites that you can have, the most exciting explosions. I know that those guys over there in Fort Lauderdale and Miami, some of those sail fishermen. I mean, you want to see true masters of their craft. Watch those guys work kites, not just one kite. I mean, multiple kites in the air, multiple baits hanging off of kites. I mean, those guys have it dialed in, and we do it over here for kingfish too. I mean, some of the bites that you'll get, kingfish bites that you'll get on kites. I mean, it's just about the most exciting thing that I can think of in sport fishing is seeing any fish blow up on a kite.
We have a customer here that has a couple whalers, and he also has a big sport fish. And they called me, I think it was December last year, and they're like, "Oh, the weather's perfect. Let's go out there. We're gonna, kite fish." I'm like, "All right." So we went out there, and I didn't like kite fish like a lot because you gotta have a good team. You gotta have a good support system because one guy's getting the kite, the other guy's getting the rod, the other guy's getting the bait, keeping the boat. So it's like a machine. Everybody kind of has to work together. And there are these two brothers, and I go fishing with them a lot. And they had 2 kites out, and they had 8 baits out at a time. And you'd see we're catching dolphin like that too. And you get a big sail come across, and as quick as that fish is on, they're clearing the other lines to make sure everything is going right. And then another fish would be on, and the other person's grabbing the other rod. But it's like a dance, if you will.
A choreographed dance.
It is.
Yeah, it's the coolest thing.
You're not just sitting back drinking a beer with your rod and a rod holder saying, "Oh, there we go. We might have a fight."
It's not like just blind trolling where you're just sitting there waiting for something to hit. But I mean, they're making sure that the kite's the right height, the fish are just on top of the water. And 9 times out of 10, I mean, they're in a big tower, and they'll say, "All right, we got the port long," and they'll see the fish coming up, and they'll see, hey, he's going short, pull this one out. And then, they make it, when guys know what they're doing, it makes it a lot easier for the people that are fishing. It makes them enjoy what they're doing.
Yeah, and to kind of explain what kite fishing is, I know a lot of people watching are probably like, "What the heck are you guys talking about?" So basically how a kite's going to work is you've got your kite rod, which are going to be short, little stubby. They've got one eyelet on them, and
right.
It makes it a lot easier when it's an electric reel on it, but I've used them without them. And basically you've got a kite attached to the main line on a snap swivel, and it's a fishing kite. It's not a kite with a tail on it. It's not a Barbie doll kite. It's an actual fishing kite. And there's different kinds. You've got your Boston big games with your tail on it. But for the most part, I'm a big fan of SFEs, a red SFE or something like that. What the kite's going to do, the kite's going to go way up there. And from the main line, you're going to have your snaps, your pressure release clips, and you're going to be running your baits through them. And the whole point of a kite essentially is the kite's up here, the main line's right here, and your baits are dangling off of that, and your bait is just in the water like this. It's just running across the surface. And one of those things that Anthony was saying about having a good team, somebody's going to be on each one of those rods, and they're making sure that kite bait is at just right at the surface of the water. And there's not any of that line in the water. All it is a bait on a surface, and it's triggering that predatory response from a game fish, whether it's a sailfish or whatever. And then like Anthony's talking about, I mean, multiple kites, 4 baits on each kite. It's a dance, and everybody's watching every one of those baits, and you're almost you're creating your own bait school, and everything's just fluttering on top of the water. And people talk about sport fishing. That's sport fishing. It's a sport, and those guys practice, and they're good.
It's nonstop. I mean, we got guys that'll go out there too. Obviously you need some type of, wind going to keep the kites up in the air. And other guys that strictly kite fish, they don't like to troll. So what they'll do is if there's not enough wind out there, they got helium. They put up a balloon, and it works the exact same way. So when people are, they target specific fish, or they fish a certain way, they want to do everything they can to keep fishing in the same manner that they could. So when there's no wind, they kind of make the wind because they just put a helium balloon up there and everything runs the same way through that.
So that's kite fishing. So that's on one side of the spectrum here, or everything's backed up on my camera. So you got one side of the spectrum right here, kite fishing. You're not messing around. Got the other spectrum right here. We're talking trolling. So how do you guys troll over on that coast?
Over here, we're looking for rips in the water. You're looking for contours. You're also looking for, you can follow birds. You can follow the weed lines. There's just so much available on the East Coast. I don't know per se West Coast side, but on the East Coast, I mean, if you're just, you could be blind trolling and you could be targeting one type of fish and something else will get it, you know, or you'll be lucky and, you know, you catch the whole spectrum. You know, you can go out there and catch kings trolling, wahoo, mackerel, sailfish, dolphin, tuna, you know, all in the same day, you know, depending upon how the weather is, you know, the heat, you know, the time of year. But it's not hard to go out here and catch dolphin, you know, most of the time of the year, or sailfish. Some people, they're out here and sailfish are so thick that, you know, it kind of, not that it annoys them, but they'd rather go out there and, you know, target different fish. But, you know, the sailfish are just, they're hungry, they're aggressive, and they just want to have fun too, you know, so they don't know the difference.
See, one thing you said there is real important, I think, that like a novice isn't going to pick up on. You're talking about the rips and the weed lines and stuff like that. You know, somebody gets a boat, they put it in the water, they go out and they're going to go trolling and they just start going, right? I mean, you think about it, you know, a layperson standing on the beach, you just look out at the water and you think, wow, that's pretty. It just looks like it's just water, right? But like you're saying, you know, you got the rips, the weeds, the color changes, temperature changes. There's roofs, whatever. There's several different type companies that you can get reports on, you know, temperature changes, water clarity, and all that. So typically where your bait fish are going to be in those little eddies and stuff like that, they're going to attract the predators. So, I mean, practice, yes, but, you know, take the time and do the research, and then results are going to be a lot better, you know, than just going out and, you know, blindly going.
I mean, at the same time, it's an investment. First of all, you got the boat. Second of all, you got the fuel. And then it's your time. And then at the same time, you know, if you're not out there catching live bait yourself, you're paying sometimes $3 and $4 per bait, you know, depending upon what you're getting. You know, you can just, you know, go to Bionic Baits and get some pre-rig ballyhoo and stuff like that. Or, you know, you can go buy goggle eyes, hair, you know, there's just so much. So, I mean, you want to make it a productive day because at the end of the day, it's, you know, it's still an investment, but at the same time, you're trying to have fun.
Yep.
With that being said, and doing it and stuff like that, of course, there's a lot of preparation involved. Anthony, as somebody that is the MarineMax Fishing Team boat, essentially, let's talk about technology and how technology can maximize those chances, whatever it might be. How can you kind of get that competitive advantage that you might not have had 10, 20 years ago, utilizing the stuff that might come with your boat or that you can add? What are some things that you think really have changed the game here in the last couple of years?
Well, I think with the way they have electronics now and cartography, that's like your first main, you know, your go-to. Like Navionics has different pages on their Navionics chip. Some will show you the contours, some shows you the drop-offs, ledges. Ray Marine has that sonar live and the logging as well, where say you're fishing and another guy, everybody's fishing all different places. And as your boat's going over that, like on the new Axiom screens with the 3D, it's kind of like sticking your face in the water with a bucket with a clear bottom, and it's like you're looking like an actual picture of what it is. And you know, and it's mapping the bottom at the same time. It's constantly updating. It's constantly updating through Navionics. It's constantly updating through Ray Marine. With the way you have autopilots now, with the way you have the joystick piloting, you could pretty much troll without, in a sense, I mean, you have to pay attention to the helm, but you can set your speed. You don't have to mess around with the throttles. You can, you know, follow a certain route if you want when you're trolling, and it makes it a little easier. So now when you think about it, I mean, like I keep saying, it's an investment, it's time, it's fun, it's everything. When you have that much invested, it makes it easier. And if you can't catch fish now, there's either, I don't want to say it's the fishermen, but you have all the technology now between radar that can pick up birds 15 miles away, and some of the radars now, they're even picking up weed patches and things in the water. On the boat that we have here, there's a dual radar right there where it's ultra high def, up to 18 miles on the dome that's on top. And then the bottom one, that's a 72-mile radar. And I mean, it's state of the art now. On that boat, you got a 24-inch screen, so it's kind of like sitting at home watching, like a fish tank, because with the 3D scanning and everything at the bottom, it just makes it so much easier for you to catch fish, and it lets you enjoy yourself, And
Who says you can't buy a bite?
You can. But it just makes it a lot easier now, Technology is really, between tackle and rod and reel combos, even the baits nowadays. I mean, it's funny. I mean, you go online and you see some of these infomercials of people with these baits. I mean, they look more realistic than some of the live baits that are actually swimming out there.
They do, but how many fish have you caught on a cedar plug?
Listen, I grew up bass fishing. That's how I kind of got into fishing with my dad. And then from that, it grew into a lot of inshore fishing. And then now I'm basically in offshore. But I wouldn't trade any three of one for the other, because I think they're all fun. They're all exciting. Just everything all in one. I mean, yeah, you get bigger fish offshore, but like that fish right there, I was in Louisiana, and we're just fishing for reds, and those out there are common. It's all fresh water, and then you get out in I guess it's called the bayou or whatever it is over there, and just offshore that picture, probably to transom of that boat, are all those oil rigs that are offshore, and some of them are a mile out, and you can go from catching a redfish right there in a foot of water to 40 feet on one of those oil rigs, and they're pulling up massive grouper and snapper and everything. So it's kind of like all in one. Pretty neat.
We got a question here from, looks like Landon DeGraff. Dream fishing spot anywhere in the world. Where is it? Mine's probably Outer Banks, North Carolina. I mean, I don't know if you guys have fished up there at all, but man, I love seeing those guys. They'll fish offshore, and they'll have tunas, billfish, all your pelagics, all your dolphins and wahoos and stuff like that. And then in the same day, they've got an awesome redfishery up there too. I mean, I think the most exciting thing is diversity. So to answer your question, Landon, I'd probably want to learn how to fish in the Outer Banks. What about you guys?
I don't know. I'd probably like to go to the Cook Islands or Fiji or something. I wouldn't care if I caught a fish or not. I just like to go down there and hang out.
I've always wanted to go to Australia, fish down there.
Yeah.
Something on my bucket list, so I got to get down there.
I met a guy one time that was a guide down on the Great Barrier Reef, and we talk about fish of a lifetime, granders as you'll call them, any marlin over 1,000 pounds, and they catch multiple in a season.
Some people dream of that stuff.
Yeah, so that's to answer your question there, Landon. And
where's Landon's bucket list of fishing?
There you go, Landon. Drop it down below. So let's talk about some little pointers here. One of the things I pride myself on, and you guys can argue me on this, I pride myself on knots. And by knots, I mean my go-to for everything is a uni knot. Keith, back me up. I tie my line to line is uni to uni. Trust it with my life, literally, and even my line to hook is going to be a uni knot. What are some knots that you think that anybody can use to, even go up against some bigger fish using terminal tackle? What's your go-to?
Well, for me, I mean, union knot was, what I grew up on. But a few years back, a friend of mine showed me that knot called the FG knot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what, it took me some time to figure it out. But, I mean, you can hang a school bus from it on braid, and it's it doesn't look like much. It kind of looks like the whipping on the front of a ballyhoo when you're wrapping the snout of it. And it's so tiny, but the thing is, it works off itself pressure-wise. And for me, that's my go-to for freshwater and saltwater, inshore and offshore.
Yeah. Plus, it goes through the guides nice.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the old Chinese handcuffs or whatever. Yeah. The more you pull, it just cinches down on itself. It works great.
You could tie it from mono to braid, mono to mono, braid to braid. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. What about you, Keith?
The FG, the Albright, I tie that quite a bit, but the FG knot's incredible.
They say another one that I don't use, but they say is theoretically the strongest knot in the world. They say that the polymer knot has the highest breaking strength relative to the line strength. So they say, but it's whatever works with you. I mean, the reason I like Unity is because I can tie them behind my back if I had to.
Yeah, the FG knot
in the dark, right? I mean, yeah. Right. So Raul just asked, what's the best website to check size and type restrictions? The old charts and rules are outdated. Fish Rules app is a good one. They update that daily, when you log in, and it's got pictures of the fish and size limits and bag limits and all that. You can always just also go to the FWC website, and they'll have information on there too.
Ray Marine's got one too. That Fish Itty app. It's called Fish Itty.
Fish Itty.
Download it. It's there's a generic one, and then go ahead.
Jim was talking about that, Keith.
It's pretty neat. It breaks it down where you are, and like you can like say where you're at, where you caught it. It gives you pictures of the fish. Sometimes you can't figure out what they are. You can look it up on there as well.
Cool.
That's on their website.
You can download these restrictions, can't you? As far as, because I mean, sometimes if you're offshore and you're out of cell phone service, you might not be able to have internet access right there. Like, hey, what the heck is this? Can I keep it? So you can. A lot of it's downloaded right there on your phone.
Yep.
So that's Fishity.
Hey, how about outriggers when you're over there trolling?
Yeah,
just kind of a basic overview of their function and what they do and how they work.
You got a couple different kinds. I mean, on the smaller boats, basically an outrigger is what you're going to use to get your lines separated from the boat and separated from each other. They have some that mount on the gunnels of the boat for smaller boats that don't have T-tops or hard tops or upper stations. And then you have the ones that mount on the hard top. So what you would do is you could either do one line, like on a boat, like up to 35 feet, you'll probably have like a 15-foot outrigger. And then what it is basically is a system where you have a snap swivel. You can either do one or you can have doubles, and you'll hook your two rods that are on one side of the boat, and then you'll take the line and you put it in the snap swivel, and then you'll just pull it out so it goes to the end of the outrigger. And then you take your second one and you do the same thing and you pull it out, but it only goes half the distance. So when you're doing that and you're trolling, it separates your bait. You can have a long, you can have a short on both sides, and then you can have flat lines on the middle, which means basically you're just taking a rod and you're putting in a rod holder, and then you're just letting your lines out and it's going straight out the back. And when a fish strikes, either the ones that are on the outriggers, what it'll do is there's a tension on the snap swivel that's on there. And normally when a fish hits it, depending upon how big it is, it usually it'll stay in the outrigger and the snap swivel. But if it's a big enough hit and the fish gets it and starts to run with it, it'll pop it right out. And then once that's out, it's like game on. You can just pull the other ones in or leave them out, depending upon if they're the longs or the short, meaning you'll have two that are, in a sense, on the outriggers that are long. They're stretched out farther, and then you have two that are in a little bit closer. So that depending upon how the boat's running, You can either leave it inside the wake, outside the wake, on the hump, away from the hump. So it kind of looks like a school of fish is kind of, going around and trying to keep it in the clean water or not the clean water. It just depends if you're trolling plugs, if you're trolling, jigs, planers, or just rig ballyhoo. So it kind of makes it a little easier for fishing, like technology, like we're saying, like on boats before my time, a lot of people didn't really have outriggers. They just put them out, whatever happened. They're using wood rods and, like prehistoric compared to what it is today, but it worked, and it got the job done.
You know what I always talk about with some of my fishing buddies is, Keith, Anthony, what if you could go back 100 years ago with today's technology?
I'd be in the Guinness Book of World Records if it was out back then, to be honest with you.
Before there was any pressure or anything, you could go out there with 24-inch, 22-inch Ray Marine screens, side scan, down view, you name it. Well, I mean,
but think about the reels. Think about the reels they're using. It's just basically a 1-to-1 spin. Now you can crank the handle one time, and it's equivalent of like 5-10 times of what you could have before. Leverage wise on the fish, it makes it kind of changes the game where it's kind of, I don't want to say it's unfair, but it makes it easier for the angler, we'll call it, compared to what it was.
What's up, Brian? We got Brian here, big time Boating Tips Live fan. Got optimum trolling speed question. That's going to change on what exactly you're trolling for. I mean, up north, it depends on how fast you're trolling and what type of trolling you're doing. Over here on this coast for kingfish, like Keith and I are used to kingfishing, we're bump trolling, we're slow trolling live bait. You don't want to kill those baits. I mean, you're probably going anywhere between 1.5, 2 knots, or even less than that, depending on what the current's doing. And then you're looking over there. I mean, how fast can you troll for wahoo?
Well, put it this way, I was almost. We were in Bimini and we were trolling for wahoo, but we were on electric reels. But we also had, regular rod and reel combos, and you could be going 15 miles an hour, and the wahoo's and I didn't believe it at first because I'd never really high speed trolled. So when I went up there with my friends, I'm like, I got to see this. And the wahoo will actually come up and they'll pass the bait because they're going so fast. And then the other thing is when they hit it, I was like, we taking the boat out. No, you don't take it out of gear. You keep going because there was one after the next. We're getting 2 and 3 at a time. And it's just, it's amazing to see something like that. But I mean, like you said, if you're kite fishing for sailfish, you're just basically bumping the boat to keep it sideways, just to keep it moving, because that's live bait. Trolling for, dolphin, you're running about, I don't know, 8 miles an hour, maybe tops. It just depends. I mean, the wind, the current, the waves, everything just all plays into itself. But if you've never done high speed trolling for wahoo, that's something you gotta do because it's crazy.
You ever do it on the coast, Keith? I know some guys have done it on the West Coast, out by the loop and stuff, high speed trolling.
I haven't. No. And on the converse too, like we were talking about kingfishing, you want to go slow with the live bait. I mean, you can actually, we've done it, take 5-gallon buckets and throw them out behind the boat or like a sea anchor, just to even slow yourself down some, just get going as slow as you can possibly go. Make those boats swim natural, or the bait swim natural.
There was this one Suncoast Kingfish Classic where the wind was just perfect, and it was me, Josh Anarelli, and my youngest brother Chris, and we started at Clearwater Hard Bottom. Right, there was a wind coming out of the north, and we set our baits out. We set our spread in the morning, and we pointed the bow towards the south, and we didn't put the boat in gear all day. Yeah. We just kept going in neutral, and it just lined up perfectly around 1.5 knots.
Yep.
So to answer your question, Brian, it's very situational.
Yeah.
What's your go-to for terminal tackle, Anthony? Are you a Penn guy? Are you a Shimano guy? Are you impartial? What?
It all depends. I mean, my trolling rods are Tiagras 30s, 20s, 30s, and 50s. It's pretty much, Penn. If you take care of something, it's going to take care of you. the more you use it, you just got to take care of it. Everything's good, pretty much going to last. I got some rods from a guy up in, he's up here in Palm Beach, Connolly Rods. We got a nice setup with him. We got a couple different guys that make some lures for us. But it's just, when you're live baiting, you just got to make sure you have the right tackle. Make sure you're always prepared. Make sure you got your knife. You're a leatherman, make sure you always got something so you're always ready for anything. Don't want to get caught with nothing out there like me and Keith did that day.
It's crazy. You get all these guys, like, we'll talk bottom fishing. I'm going to make a bold statement here in a minute. I am almost 100% faithful to a Penn Senator 113H. You've got guys, Keith, you've seen them with their Talicas and all that crazy stuff. I don't know what your go-to setup is, but you see guys with $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 setups for bottom fishing. Hey, I'll run them with a Penn 113 Senator, and I'm sure half the commercial guys on this coast will say the same thing.
That's what I got, man. Just a good old Penn 4-aught. Just winch them up.
Get some elbow grease. Make it so easy, especially for kids nowadays. You go out there, you getting a nice school of dolphin. I was down in Hawks Cay a couple weeks ago. I took my son and one of my friends. We wanted his whaler down there, and he had his son with him, and I had my son and one of my son's friends. And it was slick glass calm, and it was so hot you didn't even know what you wanted to do. And we were pulling up to these big weed patches, and it was so crystal clear. We were only in, I don't know, 60 feet of water, and you could see the dolphin literally sitting there. We were just pitching at him. And with kids sometimes, my friend's son, I think he's not even 10 years old, and you don't want to have these big old rods and reels. You want to be able to sit there and let them, even if it's a 10-pound dolphin, they have a lot of fun that way. Light tackle and just let her rip. Same thing down there in the Keys with tarpon and snapper and stuff like that. Just have fun with it. Don't just get them in the boat, the fish is green, and you're looking for the next one. You just want to have fun.
Yeah. That looks like got a question up here from Kelly Berry. Optimal line color for offshore fishing. Ooh. All right. Well, that's gonna cause some debate. Keith, what are your thoughts on them saying that red line disappears first in the water column?
Well, I think we're all divers. We all dove, so, and red is the first color to disappear. And then they had what was it? Who was it? Trilene or somebody had the camo line, the green, the red, the white, and it was all mixed up in there. I really don't know. I think, like trolling wise though, the bright high vis line works good for you guys over there trolling, right? So you can keep an eye on what's what.
I use high vis for kingfish.
Yeah, when you're trolling, you want the high vis. Like, I know we're over there yellowtailing in the Bahamas. If you don't have like the clearest mono that you can get over there in the Bahamas, those yellowtail are just so smart. They just look at you. There's a picture when we were in the Bahamas with some of the wahoo. As fast as we were going, as fast as they were coming in, and you're trolling a lead that's got to be, I think 4 pounds. It's like a bullet lead in front of that lure right there. And from one to the next, as fast as we were going, you look at this boat and you're like, how are these fish going to get in the boat? How are they even going to catch what you're trolling behind the boat? And you can see them coming like an army, and then they're just coming at you, and they'll get closer to the boat and then they'll drop back and grab the baits. So it's just,
that's cool.
You gotta be ready.
That is cool.
It's like we got a question for you, Anthony. You got John. Question that I would like to know too. Where is the new fish team boat?
Ooh, John Martinelli. He's a funny guy. He's the one that takes care of all of our wraps on all the fish team boats.
Oh, cool.
We're still waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. He takes care of all that stuff for us, all of our clothing, our gear, every single thing. Oh, there's my turtle shot right there. That was over there that was in the Abacos, a place called Green Turtle. And you pull the boat up right there. You really can't see it in the background, but you can see Joey Garcia. He's sitting up on the dock, And it's just a small little dock, and it's a place over there where all these turtles congregate. And you can go over there with just squid, and they just swim up to you, and you're feeding them by hand. It's the coolest thing on earth.
Which their water. That's not the current one, is it?
No, that was the 38. That was not this one. It was the one before this one.
Yeah.
We got the new one coming soon. I'm just as excited and waiting for it as most people.
What's the new one going to be?
The new one's going to be a 33-hour age. So we're going to get that. It's got to be equipped with a Seakeeper. It'll be all latest and greatest Marine stuff. We got stuff that's out, and then obviously they'll do some things on there that they'll want to test and bring to fruition and, show to the public, when these boat shows come around and,
Well, that's the cool thing, man. You get to see all this stuff before it's even, you're like sworn to secrecy there. You got top secret stuff going on there, and it's like, let's go play with this.
Everybody that knows me knows that I always have my cell phone on me. And sometimes when I go Ray Marine and they're like, hey, you got to put that away, you just, all right, yeah, I get it. Out of respect, and
yeah,
it's just technology. I mean, we've done photo shoots with Ray Marine screens and depth finders and stuff like that. We've also done a lot of stuff on the FLIR side as well. And that, that's something else that makes things easier for you. You're on a shotgun start on a big tournament, and there's 40, 50 bows and it's hazy outside or it's raining or it's, you can't see, and, you flip on one of those cameras and it's like daytime, and it's dark. It's completely, black outside, and you're running like you're looking out your front windshield at 2:00 in the afternoon when the sun's bright shining. So that's something else that makes things a lot easier.
I think that'll be cool on the on a 330 because you see the 380 outrage fishing team boat. It's over the top. You got 3 engines. It's a big boat, but I think what I'm really excited about is it's going to be kind of all that technology like the Seakeeper and stuff that you usually wouldn't see on anything smaller than 37, 38 feet. We're going to see it on a little bit more of a proportional center console. I think that's going to be really neat for everybody.
Now with the way the screens are going, when you think about it, they're kind of just giant monitors, giant iPads, and everything feeds into it. Some of the Ray Marine stuff you can control from your phone. Seakeepers you can operate from the Ray Marine screens. Underwater lights from the Ray Marine screens. There's different apps for everything. You watch Netflix while you're out there fishing. Football games, baseball, sports, soccer. I mean, the sky's the limit.
There we go. Got some pictures showing up at the bottom right screen.
Yeah.
The thing I love about fishing, especially offshore fishing, it's you wake up in the morning and you have an opportunity that your life is going to be changed forever. You never know what you're going to catch when you're out there, and each and every picture is going to bring you back to a different memory. You remember the smells, you remember how cold it was, how warm it was, how the fish hit. You remember every fish, and it's almost intimate. Like that fish there, that's with one of my old friends, Ian, with Real Deal Fishing Charters up in Cape Cod. And man, we used to catch some serious fish up there. And each and every fish is going to be something different. Of course, some are bigger than others. There's this one picture. I'm going to talk to the man behind the curtain here that's controlling this. There's a picture of Keith. Keith, I wanted to talk to you about this. There's a picture of Keith holding a gag grouper, top right. Left, nope.
That's red snapper.
To the
That's
left.
Marlin.
It's the one that's not red, Kelly. Right? No.
Left. There you go.
So I can feel how cold it was by looking at that picture. And people talk about Florida being this hot place. You look at that guy back there, and he's bundled up. That is wintertime grouper fishing, west coast of Florida at its finest. Tell me about that.
Yep, absolutely. Got the bibs on, got the hood on, sweatshirt. That's a MarineMax Halloween Guavaween getaway shirt on right there too from one of our trips. But yeah, man, gag groupers, pretty fish.
And we have the opportunity out here where we have, like we talked about earlier, we have so much real estate and stuff. But even for fish like this is another gag grouper right there. You're running pretty far on the west coast of Florida just to get in some decent fishing in the summertime too. But I remember that one. So that fish right there, we had a dead squid on the bottom. None of us were paying attention. It was probably on the hook for about an hour before any of us, we were snapper fishing on the other side of the boat before any of us finally realized that there wasn't even a fish on. And then we pulled him up and the fish was cooked anyways. He was like, dude, I'm done. I'm dead. I've been on this hook for like an hour. But that got some good ones down there. There you go. That's the high-speed
That's
troll.
how fast we were going. High-speed trolling. That's on a 68 Viking. And
Literally on plane.
you couldn't believe. I'm like sitting there going, there's no way that there's a fish that's going to come. And all of a sudden, his head comes pointing through those waves, and then they disappear. And then all of a sudden, they just pick it up and they go.
That is crazy.
Wow.
And the thing I can't even believe is that they don't slow down too. They're just like winch them up.
Now, if you slow down, you'd probably get killed because when there's one, there's plenty. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
You'll catch tuna like that. You'll catch every once in a while. You might catch a dolphin like that. When you start to slow down because they're finally catching up to them. But when you're in the thick of the wahoo like that, they were just one after the other. It's pretty neat, but burning some fuel at that point.
There we go.
There's another trip. We were deep dropping over there in Bimini, and they were pulling up grouper, and Sean Doyle's with us. It's like a fish tank over here. You're so close to the Bahamas, you're so close to the United States at the same time, and you're fishing, and there's so much to choose from. And on these lot of times on these big center consoles, you could pretty much be prepared for any type of fishing. Because sailfish, dolphin, tuna, wahoo, they relatively will eat most of the same things. When it comes to lures, trolling plugs, on planer rigs, and live bait's live bait. That's pretty much universal for everybody. But some guys that are going to target specific fish, they're set up for that and that only. But when you're on these big center consoles, there's a lot of stuff. You can storage everywhere. Pretty much the rods are the same. You're prepared. You got a bucket for, that your jigs that you're throwing. You got a bucket for your leads. You got a bucket for, everything. And you're set up. So you're prepared, right, Captain Keith?
Yeah, always be prepared, right? The Boy Scouts.
Yep.
So, hey, speaking of the Bahamas, what's going on over there? So what's the deal if we've got somebody that wants to run over there and go fishing for a few days or something?
Good question.
It's changing daily sometimes.
Okay.
They're not taking, from last I hear, they're not taking like commercial, flights and stuff like that. And some people say they are, like chartered planes. But mostly we have customers here that are leaving here on Friday. They're going over on a 59 Sea Ray. So as long as you have a test done, and it has to have, I think it's 48-hour of a negative result on the test, and they'll let you enter when you go to clear customs.
Okay, good info. So get tested right before you shoot over then.
We had some customers that were over there when all of this kind of broke out, and they made them leave the Bahamas to come back here. And, it was kind of weird because, like, you're already there long before it ever, something was ever even known. But we've had plenty of customers going back and forth.
Okay.
As long as you get your tests and you just, you be careful.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a good question. Good question.
But there's nothing like leaving the dock because you forget about everything, There's no COVID floating out there in the ocean. You don't have to worry about your taxes, your insurance, when you come back, it all comes back to you. But for that moment in time, however long it is, a day, an hour, a week, everything's just, just you and having fun.
I haven't heard of a single fish contracting a pot or COVID-19 yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not speaking for all the fish in the world, but as far as I'm concerned, they've got about a 0% positive test rate.
You're 100% correct.
So we talked about it last week. It's just about the only thing that you can do to just kind of leave all this nonsense behind. Got Brian got another good question. Night fishing options. I like night fishing this time of year because you're not baking in the sun and it's not 150 degrees. You talked about, there's so many different night fishing things that you can do. You talked about the mutton snapper run over there. Is that primarily a nighttime fishery or what?
Well, over there, it depends on the tides over there, but normally they'll go out. I mean, you'll see them out there at night, and it's just lined up like a freeway. Over here at night, people go sword fishing. Some people even dolphin fish offshore at night over here. Yellowtail, that's big in the Keys. A lot of my friends do it down there, but it just depends. It's just sword fishing. You can go during the day, you can go at night. That's something that's a proven, result. Dolphin fishing, it's either hit or miss. You either know, you don't know, you're catching them or you're not catching them. When you're on the reefs, you're on the reef. It doesn't matter whether you're catching yellowtail, snapper, grouper. That's going to be tides and stuff like that as well.
Keith, what about you? You spend your fair share of nights mango fishing around here or what?
Yeah, we got, you get outside on the rocks and stuff like that on a full moon, in the summertime when they're spawning. You get the mangrove snapper and, take some frozen glass minnows and some chum and get them worked up and get them right up to the surface, right? And then it just kind of on a light spinning rod, just your bait, just let it flow back with the chum as it's going out, gets right in there in the mix. So it all looks natural, all looks the same. And, you can get them right up off the bottom, right up onto the surface. And that's the coolest looking thing. All of a sudden you just see all this red just start rising up in the water column and coming up. Yellowtail snappers, same way. Stuff like that. You can get them right up off the bottom, off the structure. So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful sight.
Yeah. So what's hot right now? Before we get off here, Anthony, a lot of the stuff that you guys are dealing with over there with your pelagics, and you're dealing with a lot of migratory game fish. What are people targeting over there in your world right now?
Right now, it's been dolphin, tuna. People are still reeling in the wahoo out here too. I mean, it just depends where you go. I mean, because the way Florida's shaped here, when you start heading south down to the Keys, your currents and everything are going a little different. So they might be destroying yellowtail down there, but up here, it's far and few between. Maybe in Miami, it's a little bit better. Dolphin fishing's still been on fire up here. I mean, it's just so hot out right now. I mean, I always say it every year. I don't remember it being this hot, And like you go to the Bahamas, which is only 50 miles from here, and it's hot here, but over there, it's a different kind of. It's like you're standing on the sun, and it's right in your face, kind of hot. So, make sure you got your hats, your buffs, those big straw hats. We love those things. You kind of look a little weird sometimes wearing them, but I tell you what, they're a lifesaver.
Oh, you can't mess with this sun down here. I've said it before. When I used to fish up in Massachusetts for days, weeks, and months, and I was young, I should have. You need to wear sunscreen and stuff regardless. But man, I would cheat it, and I'd be okay, catch a nice tan. Try that down in Florida for more than a day or two, being outside, on the water, and you'll regret it. I don't care who you are. I don't care what kind of skin complexion you are. You're gonna get fried, and you're gonna have a bad time unless you know what you're talking about.
We'll go out there. People want to snorkel, look for lobster and stuff like that. And I'm like, listen, we have these shirts for a reason. Doesn't matter what color they are. And they're like, no, we're just, I put suntan lotion on. And, they're in the water an hour, 2 hours to get back in the boat. And, they're as red as the stripes on the flag behind Keith. And you look at them and you're like, I tell you this, not because I just want to hear myself talk, but I mean, we've been out here long enough, and we've seen everything from people get real bad burns. They don't realize it. I mean, yeah, you got waterproof, it's this, it's that, but it wears off, and you're sitting there flat, and it's 12 in the afternoon, and the sun's coming straight down. Yeah, other people on the boat, they're under a T-top, they're under a sure shade or something like that, and they're not getting the sun like you are. And then you get back to the boat, and you're driving home that night, and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't move." I don't want to say I told you so, but
you're reaching for the aloe the next day.
Yeah, I gotta stop at CVS. I need to get some lotion to put on, but you learn. It only takes once, something like that.
Oh yeah. Well, it looks like we've been here for an hour. Time goes by quick when you're having fun.
It's the truth.
I am seriously. I am really excited to see this new fishing team boat. I'm excited to see what you guys are whipping up every year. I'm so excited. Unfortunately, bummer, no Ibex this year in person. So I was looking forward to hopefully seeing that boat there, but not going to have it happen. So that,
it's going to be another head turner. There'll be 2 massive screens, a couple of 22-inch screens, radar, the new fleer that's coming out. Just a lot of good stuff that's coming with it.
I'll have to take it for a hot lap on Keith.
Absolutely.
You're welcome to it. It's always here.
Yeah.
Well, if it was only that easy.
Yeah, I know, right?
Just a car ride. I make it over there. You got to make it over here.
Just a hop jump across the state.
Yep.
Well, Anthony, I appreciate you joining us. I know you're a busy guy. I know you got a lot going on. So like everybody in the boating industry right now, it's just crazy. You know, it's been on fire, so we can't complain. Yeah.
No.
Well, Keith, what do you say? You want to sign us off? Do the honors?
Sure. So thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it, bud.
Thank you.
Join Nick and I next Monday at 3:00. We'll be back for episode number 17. In the meantime, you can follow us on Facebook at MarineMax Leisure, Instagram and YouTube at MarineMax Online, and Twitter at MarineMax. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hope you learned something, had a good time. Thanks a lot.
See you on the water.